Yo, 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 welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's CLFurlong, I am your host, and I'm super thrilled to be back here to have a conversation with you and also to introduce you to this week's guest, and that is a double duo, a team, a couple, and that is Jen and Anthony Bailey. Now, before I fully introduce them, let's just back it up a little bit. You see, life can be a challenge, and whether it's from the lemons life throws at us, whether it's from the choices that we make, or maybe sometimes it's the mistakes that we make as well. Regardless, it really comes down to what are you going to do about it. And in this episode, I had the amazing opportunity to be able to chat with Jen and Anthony Bailey, who individually both have some amazing and encouraging and really life-changing stories. We also talk about their teamwork effort in co-running their non-profit organization or charity organization called Run for Grace. Now, there is lots in this episode, and I do want to just give a quick little warning that we do dive into their past, and some of it could be quite confronting. So do take that into mind before listening, as they do come from a background of domestic abuse, domestic violence, and maybe not the most healthiest relationships, and a whole bunch of other weight that comes with that. So please do take that into consideration before listening. But of course, these stories are here to uplift and help you understand that if you are in a sticky situation, it's never too late to make a change. And also that though things can be tough and though things can look a little too hard, there's always a way through. So it was an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with Jen and Anthony, and I really do hope you learned something from it. Now, before we jump into it, if you are new here, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all those great places. We're also over on YouTube, where if you do want to see the video experience, you can jump on over there too. Of course, we do have show notes along the way, whether you're on YouTube or listening on the different platforms. For now, let's jump into it. Welcome to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, Jen and Anthony. It's so great to have you guys here. I know we've been chatting about this for a while. How are you guys doing today?
Amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to talk to our overseas friend.
Yeah, in the future.
In the future.
Love it.
It's so what? It's Sunday afternoon for you. It's Monday morning for me. Well, it's almost lunchtime for me. But look, I mean, I've been following you guys for a very long time. More so you, Anthony. I think we met probably about a year ago. It was via the YouTube community. I think it was via Kevin, to be honest. Kevin Exconde, and we were kind of just met in the comments. You're a runner as well, and that's how we've kind of connected and hit it off over the last year. And then I've learned a bit more about both yourself and you, Jen, and the amazing things that you are doing with your Run for Grace charity. But at the same time, I know you both have such amazing stories and very impactful stories in the past and in the present as well, and of course hopefully for the future too. But let's hear a bit more about both of you, just at a high level, who you guys are, what you're all about, and we'll dive into all the detailed stuff a bit further down, but just so the audience knows who you are.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm Jen. And yeah, that's my husband Anthony. We created Run for Grace in 2018 to further help our community. We really wanted to do something outside of ourselves and take what we've learned through our previous days, lives, relationships, and growing up experiences, and really help out where we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what Run for Grace is essentially is helping those in need through running.
Yeah.
And it's just, we find there's no specific way of how we do it. If we find an event that we like, and we could find an organization that kind of fits that event, we'll find a way to make some money for them. Yeah. Either through team building or by solo events. Yeah. So, which usually I'm the mule when it comes to that. I'm the one that the workhorse. But she does.
He runs really fast.
I don't run very fast, but it's funny. The past few times she had gastric sleeve surgery, so she's been able to opt out of these things. But she's done a wonderful job, and behind the scenes, we're putting together the government paperwork and things that I would never want anything to do with. She's able to do. So we have our strengths when it comes to certain things of the business.
That's it. I mean, and then that's what you want, right? To be able to work with each other, strengths and weaknesses, play a part for both of us, and that's life. And to be able to hear that you guys are working as that dream team duo, and we all have a part to play. And So before Run for Grace, then, I mean, I guess individually, what about, I know there's a lot of backstory that we're going to get into shortly, but what do you guys do for work? What are you guys doing aside from the charity work? What are your professions? Do you have a skill by trade, or is it just, what's the story there?
For me, I'm a notary, so
Okay.
I go around notarizing things for people. It works really well with the schedule and, having the kids and being able to still be the mama that I want to be while like catering to our business the way it needs to.
And for anyone that doesn't know what that is, what is that?
So a notary is a person that makes sure you are who you say you are. So it's my job. I'm commissioned by the state of California to identify you, and then I can stamp your documents to, this is authorized, this is legit.
Yeah. What do you say? You're the person that when you come walking in, that because she does a lot of home loans.
All right.
When she comes walking in, what would you like to say? You'd say this is they're signing the life away when she walks in.
Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah.
What about you, Anthony?
Well, I for a living, to make money for the family and to provide our benefits, I drive a city bus for the city of Santa Monica. I've been doing that for 20 years.
Wow.
I've been there long enough where I have a nice, pretty easy schedule with my seniority, where I can get in and out pretty quickly and get home and be with the family and focus on my other passions outside of that, which is YouTube, Run for Grace, and the family. And our dog Karma.
No, that's great. And it's good because we all have different works that we come from, or educational skills that we do. And there's no right or wrong way to go through it. And I didn't actually realize, I knew you had been, bus driving for a long time. I didn't realize it was 20 years. And that in itself is, it's kind of like one of the unsung heroes of a local community, because, when I used to travel into the city, I used to catch the train, but, every so often you'd have to catch the bus, if trains were decommissioned or whatever. And I have a lot of, patience, or I can have a lot of empathy for the bus drivers, because they're the ones that usually get so much flack, even if they're just there to take someone to a destination. But, when the trains have been, there's been an accident or whatever and the replacement buses come, it's usually the bus driver that's getting all the flack. And it's like, well, he's got nothing to do it. He's just here to get you from A to B. He's got no idea what's going on. He's just probably had the call. And they unfortunately get a lot of the, the flack and whatnot. So, whether that works in the same dynamic for you guys, but I can, it's a big job that you do, even though it's probably understated in what, what you're actually doing for people. And it's because you're moving people from A to B, and you're probably helping people get to their jobs. So good work, man. Good work.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I've learned a thick skin through this.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do a whole separate podcast just on the stories I have from the people I've met, but it also has helped me in our nonprofit, because I actually get to see up close and personal the challenges that people are going through. So
that's true.
Is it pleasant all the time? No, but it's reality. It's life.
And that's going to be like with any job anyway, right? Any career that you do, there's always going to be the pros and cons, and it's not going to be for everyone. But, clearly, if you've been doing it for 20 years, not saying you absolutely love your job, but there will be an element to it which you do love. And obviously there's an element that you do hate, and you've been able to continue to do that. And I loved how you said that now that you've been there for so long, you're able to get in, get out, and you do have that flexibility of routine, because you've built that respect, you've built that trust. And I think that's something to leverage and make sure you do benefit from, because you've earned it.
Well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate that.
No worries.
I'm listening that to my boss.
Yeah, but don't quote me. So okay, so let's jump it back a little bit. So both of you have crazy and amazing stories, and when I mean crazy, it's just life changing. And that's why I wanted to get you guys on here, not just because of the things that you're doing now, but because where you've come from. And this podcast is all about furthering your lifestyle. And to hear that, I've heard a little bit already, about, I guess, the different journeys and the different challenges of life that has come both your ways individually. I think it's something which, there's always that saying, when life gives you lemons, what are you going to do with it? And I know it's easier said than done sometimes, because it's not just a matter of, you quickly make a change and then everything's perfect the next day. It's a big, long journey. And I know you both have some super amazing stories about that. And I would love to dive into a little bit more, and maybe, whoever of you want to go first, but maybe just about setting some context and then going through that story, and, you can share with each other, and then, go to who else wants to share next. But over to you guys.
Go Jen first.
No, thanks. You can go first.
Okay. Always trying to be the gentleman, ladies first.
I appreciate it.
Okay. So I grew up in a very dysfunctional, I guess is an easy way of saying it, or a nice way of saying it. My parents were alcoholics and drug addicts, and that led to a lot of violence in the home, a lot of police knocking on the doors. It was just years and years of violence in the house, and,
Wow.
and poverty, and me walking to school with holes in my shoes, and it's all kinds of things. I don't want to get too wrapped up into that, but at 18, I finally moved out of there, and I told myself, I vowed myself, I was never going to drink alcohol. Never, because I saw what my mom did. I saw my dad do with it. And I was like, I want nothing to do with that. Well, 3 years later, I took my first shot at a party, and it gave me like a super self-esteem boost. And I was completely shy and withdrawn and scared of everybody. So when I took that shot, it made me Superman. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm super confident now. Well, how that goes. It turns into a every weekend thing. And then over years, it turns into a few more, almost every other night thing. And then after 14 years, I was a complete alcoholic. And I mean, I'm still working. I worked for the city, like I told you, but I would get home from work, pick up my booze and cigarettes. I smoked. I was a smoker. And I would I'd drink until about 3 or 4 in the morning. Yeah. Either at some dark, dingy bar or home by myself. Yeah. And I would just sit and wallow and complain about myself and how I didn't have this, didn't have that, and made some bad life choices in the way, had numerous hangovers. And at 35, I'm like, I'm done with this. It's like, oh my gosh, I realized 14 years went by and I didn't accomplish anything. I mean, I had a little apartment, I had a car, I had a job, more than I ever thought I'd have as a kid. So I thought I already won. But, there's always that little voice in your head telling you, there's more for you, Anthony. And then it wasn't overnight. It took some time. I started going to the bars less and start going to the gym a little bit more. And then I finally got serious about finding a relationship, because before that, I didn't want to be held down. I didn't want anybody telling me that I can't smoke or drink or all this stuff. So I finally said, what, I need a good partner. And then I went online and seriously looked, and I saw this beautiful lady with long hair down to the back of her back, way down back, and a couple of kids, and she had an LA Dodger hat on. And I go, wow, that's a good match. She has kids, because I already had a son, and she's a Dodger fan, and it looks like she has it all together. And so I reached out to her. Surprisingly, she wrote back because I kind of used the whole Dodger thing as a kind of conversation starter. And then I met her here, and had our first date at Starbucks. And from there, we were inseparable. But then 6 months later, she already knew I drank and smoked a little bit, but I was kind of weaning off of it. But she's like, as long as you don't do it in front of me, I'm good. Well, Mother's Day, 2013, she came over and she found one of my ashtray in the sink, because I drank the night before when she wasn't there. And she's like, we need to talk. She's like, 6 months together, I love you now, I care about your health. It's either me or the cigarettes.
Wow. And
that was it. Quit cold turkey that day. And it was like complete rocket boost, Chris. From there, it was just like, I accomplished more in the next 5 years than I did the previous 14 marathons, just all kinds of social clubs I joined. But I'll stop it there, and I'll let her tell you her side of the story.
But before that, I want to just back up. One thing I really want to make sure I understand and the audience understands is, you said, you had been drinking, smoking, all that for about 14 years. And this is before you had met Jen, and when you wanted to make that change yourself. So with that, I mean, you said there was that little voice, but do you think there was something that kind of triggered you to actually then because it's kind of like when you think about weight loss, right? You know, there comes that moment where you kind of just make yourself feel okay about it, but until you have that snap moment, or someone says something to you and you just crack it and you're like, stuff it, I'm going cold turkey and going to change my, you know, I'm going to go on that weight loss journey. That's, I can, you know, resonate with that. So do you think there was something that helped you make that trigger point, or do you think it was just you were just over it?
Well, two things can come to mind. One, about a few weeks before I stopped, I got this horrible case of bronchitis. Never had bronchitis before, but it would not stop, Chris. And I couldn't see my son because I was completely sick. I couldn't go to work, and I was pretty much home alone in my apartment for weeks.
Yeah.
Watching shows, which isn't a bad thing. I love binging watching, and after a while, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm by myself here. So I kind of snap of my future self. Like, if I don't change, this is how it's going to be when I'm older.
Yeah.
And second is, I'm not a religious person, but I am spiritual.
Yeah.
I was going to church a little bit back then, and I went to church one day, a church I didn't go to in years. But I decided, let me try something different. Let me go to church. And I was super cynical, Chris, super negative. Everything was, woe is me. The sky's falling all the time. She would not believe, she would not know this.
Well,
person.
his friends would tell me just after I met him, like, what's going on? Oh my gosh, you're so good for him. Like every day, hey, you know, how's your day? And it's awful. And I'm like, what? Who is that? Because this is not the guy I know.
Wow.
That was my shtick, being super negative, Mr. Mopey. But I went to church one day, out of the blue, and the pastor on the pulpit said, why are you so negative? How can you live such a negative life? How can you look at yourself in the mirror and be so negative? And I was like, whoa, blown away. First of all, I haven't been in church in years. And second, this guy seemed like he was talking right to me. And I was like, those two things of being alone and just like, you know, why am I so negative? I should be happy. I'm lucky I'm still alive.
Yeah.
So those two things I got to say were like the triggers that really pushed me.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to it, right? And to hear that, it helps. It's important for people to hear that, because especially if anyone's feeling the same situation, if someone so happens to stumble upon it and they're going through that same experience, or, you know, they're alone or whatnot, it's important to hear that, because I think it's sometimes we just need that encouragement, whether it is, you've gone to church and you've heard it from someone speaking, or you've just had the encouragement, or maybe you've gotten into a fight with a loved one and you start to rethink of, well, why are we even in this situation? And a lot of the time we blame all these other things, but it really comes down to our own choices. And, you know, we can still complain, but that's not going to change unless you put some action to where to where your words are. And no, I appreciate you sharing that, and it's encouraging. And I know it's been a long journey, and we'll probably dive into a bit more of the steps, but I thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So Jen, on the other side, what about you?
So I was in a relationship, a marriage for over 10 years. We met in 99, and there were red flags from the beginning. He was using drugs, but I thought, like, I can help him. I can get him off of this. And that clearly didn't work. We ended up having 2 kids, and in 2009, they're in their playroom. I came across a little toolkit that had a baggie of meth, a glass pipe, and the lighter. So that, for me, you know, throughout the years, he had been gaslighting me and telling me that I was worthless and I was too fat and I was too ugly and I couldn't do anything. So for me, that was my wake-up call of, this is too close to home. You know, the kids, had they gone in there and even put that thing to their lips, they would have died, because it's the residue on there. And I ended up leaving when he was in rehab. Like, I took our clothes, their cribs, and that was the only way that I could get away, because I could never do it when he was there. I'd been, you know, scared into staying and threatened. I was never physically abused, but it was definitely emotional, mental, financial, every other way, which a lot of people don't like mainstream doesn't consider that domestic violence, and in reality it is. So I got away in 2009 and slowly built my confidence. I've been in therapy since, and therapy is a great thing. It's great for mental maintenance. It's great to help out. It's, I had PTSD from this. So over the years, I really learned to trust in myself and know that it's okay to do the things that I want to do, like to try running. I tried before and was always met in opposition that I just couldn't do it. And so then I stopped. In 2012, I met Anthony, and yes, I put that Dodger picture, the clothes and everything, because I wanted that to be a talking point, and it worked out well. I loved our first date, and like you said, we were inseparable ever since, but it was a process, and I'm so thankful for everything that happened, even all the bad stuff, because through the courts and just talking, I had a terrible lawyer and people that still came at me as if I was the person in the wrong and that I shouldn't be leaving. And, why did I have kids with this person? So there was trauma from 1999 all the way through just a few years ago when the court ended.
Wow. And this person here, Chris, is not the person that I met in front of Starbucks. I mean, she was beautiful. I mean, you should have seen her. Oh my gosh. I remember looking at the window and I said, Anthony, you've got to put your game on. But she had her level head and we got along great, but she did not have the confidence that she does now. I mean, I don't know how to say that. She was almost like a scared chihuahua when I met her.
Wow.
She was just very skittish, she had zero self-esteem. I mean, now she's like, oh my gosh, she goes out anywhere and she gets compliments all day, every day. Does not just about her looks, but just how she's come along. I don't get as many compliments as she does, which is kind of offending to me. But no, she gets a lot of her confidence has really shined over these past few years.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that, Jen. So that's a long journey as well, right? And I love how, how you kind of said that when you reflect on it, there's no regrets. You're glad you've gone through that experience because you have the hindsight now to understand, the importance of that. And it's not important that we go through struggles, but how that's enabled you to become, who you are. And the same for you, Anthony, of being able to become your best potential and continue to grow through that. But it's a long journey, like you said, from the 90s, like to now, like that. It's wow.
Before you were born, Chris.
Yeah, well, probably not before, but it's getting close. But that goes to show, right? This, and once again, for anyone that's listening, it's whether it comes down to your lifestyle that you're not happy with, just goals, and even breaking it down to as simple as trying to run your first marathon. These things do take time, working through your own issues, working through the struggles. And it's not going to happen overnight, but if you don't start, you're only delaying that process. And for you, Jen, you shared, what was the thing that helped you, I guess, triggered you to then make the decision, you need to get out of this needs to change. But then you said, like, the court case and all that has only stopped over the last, couple of years, which I must ask, going through that, you're trying to see that light at the end of the tunnel, but once that had finalized, there must have been this weight that's just kind of like just dropped. Is that the case?
To some degree, yes. But we still have to deal with him day in and day out, because the kids go back and forth. So yeah, it was. And over time, I definitely started to feel a lot better about it.
Yep.
Because of that confidence I was gaining. And I realized that I don't have to let him affect me or get under my skin, and to the point where now it's just like that person's just like a gnat when they do their thing, and it's just like, get out of the way, get out of the way.
Yeah.
And, life is great.
Yeah. It's crazy that the person, this person's still in the same position they were when she left them.
Okay. I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed. The only
Yeah.
thing that is, you never know if we're going to get court paperwork just to keep it. That's how narcissists are. They will not stop.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Wow. So it is. So even though you guys have kind of moved on, unfortunately, it continues to bubble back up, and you have to continue to put that plug hole on it. But it sounds like you have moved on, but you just have to. It's now more about managing it, right? And being able to have that mentality, the attitude, and and lots of patience by the sound of it.
Yes.
Wow. Once again, this helps give perspective to people. Like, people always complain about things. I can complain about I've had a bad day, and it might just be because maybe I didn't get my sales target, or maybe the run didn't go well, or I stuffed up a video edit, and I'm just using examples. But what one person's problem compared to other people's problem, it just helps give you understanding of what people are going through, the reality of life. And I mean, life shouldn't be just perfect, because if life was perfect, it would probably be boring, right? We wouldn't know any better. We wouldn't grow. We wouldn't learn. But I would never wish anything like that I've just heard upon anyone. But unfortunately, there is so many people that experience. I mean, you would see it firsthand so much, Anthony, as you said, being on the bus, you would see a lot of that. I remember seeing so many people in, not to judge, but you would see them in circumstances that you would think, okay, what's going on here? Or how did they get themselves into that situation when I was on the train? And it can be eye-opening. And I think that's why I wanted to hear it from you guys, so much of it. And I know we've touched on it very high level, but when we think about it, it's like, life can be tough like that. It's going to suck. It's, not to tell people that don't even bother, but I think it would be a falsehood to go into reality, especially, let's say you've gone through, a family life, a childhood, and it's been great. Going into even adulthood, that's when, life kind of switches on. People that have gone through childhoods where you have had domestic violence, or you haven't had that, uplifting childhood, if anything, that probably prepares you more so for the reality of how life and the world can be. Once again, not to wish it upon anyone, but do you think, Anthony, reflecting on that, because of your childhood, maybe you had to rely more on yourself, even though it took you a very long time to discover that, because obviously you turned to alcohol and smoking and things. But when you finally did have that clicking moment, you would realize, well, the only person that can drive this, this story or this narrative is you.
Yeah. Nobody's going to come rescue you. That's not how. I mean, they could try, but unless you want to change yourself, it's not going to happen. I'm sure we've all met people that you just say, like family and friends, that you say, hey, if you do this, this, and this, things would be much better. Do they ever listen? Hardly ever. So it's always up to them. I mean, I've had numerous people tell me over the years, quit drinking, Anthony. Why you keep drinking? Why do you keep? I'm like, stop, cut it out. I always make a joke out of it, or they're lame, or they're boring. They don't understand. But no, it's like until you get that moment where you, oh my, like aha moment, like, wow, I've done so much more. And what's funny is, because I don't regret any of it.
Yeah.
I actually look at it now as a strength. It's like, because I'm not the person, I would not have been the person I am now without those times. I mean, do I wish I wouldn't have done certain, of course, but can't change the past. Yeah. But you don't stop thinking about it. There's not a day that goes by, I don't stop thinking about my childhood. Not a day goes by, every single day.
And it's not like you can go back and change it anyway. It's kind of like you can think of it, oh, if only I had started this early, or if I had made that decision earlier. It's like, well, of course, hindsight's great. If we had, if we had picked certain stocks, 20 years ago, we'd all be millionaires, right? But that's not the reality that we live in. But I think, being able to then share that experience, it's kind of like, now that I'm 30, I can reflect back, and it's like, when your parents tell you something when you're a kid, it's like, no, you can't do this. Or, when you, it's always that cliche statement of like, oh, when kids complain about being in school, and it's like, oh, well, when you get our age, you'll wish you're still back in school, right? And now you can resonate with it, because how much easier the times that, homework, but you're getting home at 3:00, you can play video games for a couple of hours, do some homework, just rest in the evening, everything's given to you, provided. It's like,
we tell our kids that all the time.
It's the dream life. And
all the time we tell them.
until you get into your adult life, or you have your own family or whatnot, that's when you start to realize and you think, oh, it all makes sense now, right? And then you go through the same cycle, trying to teach someone younger than you to, like, if you could only do this now, because if I had done it then, this is how much better it would have been. But it's hard for people to fathom that. And it's like we've when I lost weight, so I lost, oh jeepers, must have been about 8-9 years ago. I was about 110 kilos, and I was working out with my mate, and we were doing a lot of workouts and stuff, but nothing was really changing, right? And once again, it came down to diet, what I was eating and consuming. And eventually he just had to be real blunt. He's like, dude, it's the stuff you're eating, you're still fat, right? Like he was trying to, he got frustrated because here we are doing this stuff, but he's putting in the work with me, nothing's changing. And it's like, well, something's not adding up. Like,
you're spotting him with a hamburger in your hand, right?
Exactly. Like, do the math, right? And because he did that, like, coming from a friend, and if it's your friend to call you fat, compared to, usually they're telling you what you want to hear, and they're being lovey-dovey and, helping, I guess, being careful of how they do it, beating around the bush almost, right? And that's when it hit me hard, right? And I was like, crap. But then I got to the point, it's like, well, okay, I'm going to prove that I can be better than this. And it was more to prove to him, but also to prove to myself and shock everyone else, right? And that's why I asked you about that trigger moment as well, right? Because until you're ready to take action, people can tell you all these things, but oh, if you do this, it's like me, I get so frustrated when someone's passionate about something or really good at something, but they're not necessarily seeing the potential they can create out of it. I get frustrated because I'm thinking, if you just spent 1 hour a day doing something like this, you could change your life. But at the same time, if they're not willing to do that, that you can't change that. It really comes down to you taking action and making it happen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wow. It reminds me of a good thing I heard once. Either you're in the car, say your car breaks down, either you're in there waiting for someone to come get you, or you're standing outside the car pushing it.
Yeah.
Which one, who are you going to be?
Yeah. And you can be both, right? Like, you can wait if you're in the middle of a desert, or if you're in the middle of stranded from a fuel station, you can wait for someone, but you're better off starting to get closer to where you're wanting to be. And then you're halfway and someone comes and does it, and you don't have to go the rest of half. But if no one comes, you haven't moved for the last 3 hours, right? Like, so, it's a really good perspective, right? Because we do live in a society where, I mean, it's even for the last 20, 30 years, right? Where everything is kind of like just at our convenience, and we grow up with it. And like I said, for someone going through a tough childhood or going through a tough life experience, it helps bring perspective a lot quicker into our mindsets. I've never gone through that kind of thing. I've had an amazing childhood, and, I'm blessed by that, and I love that. And that's great. I would never wish that, I didn't, because that would be stupid. But there's strengths and weaknesses from that I get, and then there's strengths and weaknesses that you're able to obtain through those experiences. And now we've run for grace. You guys are able to take all the things that you've learned, and be able to help other people, I guess, further their lives and not make the same mistakes. And I guess before we dive into a bit more on that, so from the experiences that you guys have gone through, is there any, I guess, words of wisdom or advice for people that maybe are going through similar or are struggling, or, I would love to think maybe there is someone listening to this that has a circumstance, whether it is, well, I would never hope so, but, whether they are in a sticky situation as a young child or as a young teenager, or maybe they're in a sticky situation with a relationship that they're in, or maybe they're just stuck on the alcohol, or they've got something that they want to get rid of in their life. Is there some words of advice or encouragement that you guys could suggest, or how they could potentially start to work through, or maybe to present themselves with a trigger that will enable them to just take action?
What do you think, darling?
I would say anyone that's been or is in a situation similar to mine, just to know that you're stronger than you really think you are.
Yeah.
There was so many times that I struggled with that because someone was telling me that I was less than nothing.
Yeah.
And in reality, you can do anything. It's going to be an uphill for a little bit.
Yeah.
But coming through it is absolutely worth it. And taking that first step is everything. It means absolutely everything.
Yeah, that's
Well
beautiful.
said. I would say it's never too late.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 35 when I turned things around, but I don't think there's an age limit on turning your life around. I think everybody has some kind of purpose, even if you're a year away from dying. Like, for example, my mother passed away at 54 years old from she was homeless. She died of cirrhosis from lifelong of alcoholism. And at her funeral, she had about 10 people there.
Yep.
But her life was actually the reason why Run for Grace was started, because we wanted to do a fundraiser one year, the first year, and we wanted to do it for the organization that helped my mother while she was homeless.
Right.
So even she's not here anymore, she's still making a difference in a roundabout way.
Yep. No, it's really good advice, because, you know, I mean, I'm young, I'm 30, and I'm always trying to tell people younger than me, it's like, you know, try and do this, because I want them to, not that I'm trying to project to them that I don't want them to make the same mistakes that I do, but I can understand and see how much potential they can create and bring to this world and to their own life. But at the same time, there's probably people listening to this older than me, older than both of you. And it's the same thing. Like, it's actually never too late, whether it is to get out of that rut, whether it is to start that passion, whether it is to start that business, or, you know, even, you know, I know we're, you know, being, obviously we're going to talk about running shortly, but to go start running, to lose weight and all those things, it's never too late. It really just comes down to, well, are you willing to have to go through that change experience, which unfortunately isn't going to be easy. But before we jump on, and, you know, I would encourage anyone, if you guys want to chat about this, to reach out to, you know, you can reach out to Jen and Anthony, have a chat. If you just want some advice or curious about it, or myself, more than happy to listen and have a conversation with anyone that just needs to help clear that headspace or bounce some ideas.
Absolutely.
So Run for Grace. You know, you touched on it a bit more, but let's dive into a bit more. So how long have you guys been operating it for? And, you know, is there some further examples of what you guys have been able to do in terms of, you know, raising money for different charities and things like that?
Yeah.
We unofficially started in 2017. No.
2018 was the first fundraiser for that organization I told you about.
Yep.
And it was called Grace Resources.
Okay, right.
We're a nonprofit out here that helps the homeless. And so we did a fundraiser for them called Run for Grace. Because I ran the LA Marathon. Second LA Marathon, I just called it Run for Grace. And it went on for a couple of years. And each year we went, the first year was just me. Then the second year was, I recruited some friends along with Jen. She did her first marathon. And then the team got larger. And then by 2019, we said, okay, we like this fundraising thing. Let's separate from Run for Grace, from Grace Resources, a great organization, but we want to help more people.
Yeah.
So that's how the name Run for Grace came about. And that has been a challenge also, from separating from an organization. If the whole community knows that you help. Yeah. I would get phone calls saying, hey, what time you guys open? Who's open? Grace, what time you guys taking clothes? This isn't Grace Resources. This is, they automatically thought I worked for them. So it has been a shift of separating ourselves separately from them.
Yep.
Yeah, the naming. But and for us, you know, grace, just the word grace in itself is, you know, pretty powerful. It's like everyone needs to have that kind of grace. They need to not be so hard on themselves and understand, like, hiccups in life happen, but it's all how you deal with it and move on and further yourself.
Exactly. And we want to be in the business of preventing homelessness.
Yep. Okay.
Focusing on the people maybe they're going through domestic violence. We help an organization out here that we raise money for child abuse. So it's we're not just helping people at home, maybe open to helping them too, but we are really focusing on helping preventing homelessness. If you're in a situation where maybe a house burned down and your family is almost close to homelessness, hey, we might be open to doing a fundraiser for those people.
Yep.
So there's many different areas where we help.
So it's really, I mean, you mentioned that you're willing to help anyone, but then you do have those key pillars around whether it's homelessness or those in need, or just needing to help get back on track, and basically being gracious to someone else and helping bring that grace to life. But at the same time, it's you're doing it through the means of running, right? And that's just, I guess, the medium, or the way that you're, I guess, driving the audience to raise awareness. So for instance, if someone wanted to, well, if you learn about an organization that you want to raise money for, do you guys just kind of set up a charity fund in terms of, we're going to be running for this month? Or is it kind of like you do it to an event, or can you have multiple running at the same time? How do you kind of work through that dynamic?
Well, because we're still new, we don't have multiples running at the same time, but we usually take an event that's already set up, and we'll build a team, sign up for that event, pay their entrance fees, set up an account through GoFundMe, and then just social media blast that, and this way we can raise funds for that organization.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
Yeah, or it could be like last year I did the 4x4x48.
Oh, yep.
And I said, you know what, I want to do this, but I want to raise money while I'm doing this. I reached out to an organization out here called Children's Center in the Antelope Valley. They help with children that are being abused, and I did the whole thing just for them. So it's not just all team stuff, but that's primarily what we do. Our main thing is the LA Marathon. That's where we do our yearly thing for Grace Resources. We just submit that one for them every year. And it's a little wonky this year because we have the LA Marathon 4 months separate from each other from each year because of the pandemic, but it's going pretty well. And now we are an affiliate club of the LA Road Runner.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. A big, I mean, we love the LA Marathon. I mean, it holds a special place in my heart because it was my first marathon ever. It was her. She's done 2 of them. And so when they reached out to us and they said, hey, we want to expand our reach to where you guys live and get the name of the LA Roadrunners, which is the official training plan of the LA Marathon. And we're like, okay. And they said, and they said, what time does your running club meet? And at the time we didn't have a running club, but we're like, they meet on Saturdays at 7 a.m.
And that's part of the process, right? Like, because when opportunities come like that, you need to be willing to be flexible and go with the flow. And you hear it from all the greats. It's like, remember the story, I don't know if you've read Shoe Dog, but the story of, how Nike,
love it.
Right. And it was exactly the same thing. They said, oh, what's your company that, that you're going to be selling the shoes via? And, I can't remember what it was called, Blue something, whatever. And, he winged it on the spot, made it up, and had to get his dad to quickly buy all this stuff. And, said it. And there might be a level of maybe it's not 100% honest or true, but the integrity or the intent there is correct, right? And it is right. So that's super exciting. So I would love to know then how can people get on board, or how can they interact? And I obviously you guys being in close to LA, and you're over near California and US, for anyone that still hasn't figured that out yet, and my audience, we are worldwide but predominantly Australia, but I do have an audience in the US as well. Can anyone get involved, and can they, how can they help out?
Yes, we are worldwide. No, we're kidding. We love social media. We're all over Instagram. We're all over Facebook. We actually have a private group page on our Facebook page for our running group. We call it R4G Running Club. So we have some great people over there. It's really fun to see the members share their stuff over there. I mean, some really inspirational people. And so they can go to Run for Grace Running Club on Facebook or Instagram, or just or our website, runforgrace.org. We're easy to find.
And then any, for instance, any latest fundraisers that you're doing, people can just basically follow along there. And, for instance, you might be doing one GoFundMe for one event, or you might be doing it for a different, organization or something throughout the years. And I think GoFundMe, anyone can pretty much donate or support, whether you're global or local, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. There's different payment options, but we're currently raising money for Grace Resources, the first organization we helped, because it's LA Marathon time. And We are just ending our first fundraiser for the 2021 LA Marathon and we raise money to provide Thanksgiving dinners to families out here. And we are able to successfully provide 60 families of 4 with Thanksgiving dinner this year.
It's amazing. I love hearing those numbers, because that's the numbers that you start to realize the impact. It's like when you play the numbers of, like, if you've got one person that watches your video, well, that's one person you've influenced. But then to hear that you've provided food, or you potentially changed the lives of 60 people and their families, like that like you would never, it's hard to fathom that, well, if you weren't doing this, where else would you be impacting 60 people or having a 60 people impact? It's like, and it's not about you impacting, but it just helps you understand that the power of, by just taking action and doing, the influence and power that you can help others, move forward along in life. I would love to know, do you guys kind of have like, and you can correct me if I'm going to say 5 years, but do you guys have a bit of a roadmap or a bit of a dream for where you want to take Run for Grace? Whether it is 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or do you have something like that, or are you just kind of playing it out?
Well, you want to answer this? No? Okay. Well, we since it is just my wife and I, we have no business, at least I don't have no business sense at all. I don't know. Yep. All I know is I want to run and help people in need. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But you got to recruit some smarter people that know what they're doing. So luckily we are under the guidance of a organization out here that helps small businesses get bigger.
Yep.
And they are helping us immensely, because their mission is to help businesses grow, to build employment.
Yep.
So they have a team of like 40 people or something. So we have a meeting with them like almost once a week. They say, okay, where are you at today? Okay, now you got to do this. So they're forcing this roadmap onto us.
Good.
Which is great, because for us, we're just like, we want to give, but in reality, it's like that. To an extent, it was bleeding us dry, because we had no idea, what we were doing. We're just giving.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, in lieu of just giving, like, you got to get something back. So let's work on, getting email addresses, building up your thing, and then you can give this stuff. We were like, what?
Like, I don't want to ask people for things if you just want to give. So
but then that helps everything grow, and it's worked out so great so far. And we're just so thankful to be working with them.
So anytime anybody goes on the website, and if they want to donate, all funds go towards future fundraising efforts.
I was going to say, you need to have that some level of consistency coming through, because otherwise you're outlaying costs up front, which is fine, because you want to give, but at the same time you need to be able to live your life and pay your bills and all that jazz. And it's not about making profit. It's about being able to meet the needs of what you're trying to achieve. And unless you have, unfortunately, some cash flow and some level of dollars up front to be able to go out and invest or scale and grow and make awareness, it won't happen, right? So I would encourage anyone that's listening, maybe you don't want to go focus on just one charity, but if you want to support Jen and Anthony in building out Run for Grace, and those funds would then go towards obviously building out that charity organization, or to any of those further opportunities in bringing a change to someone's life. It's really encouraging to hear, and it's young, but I'm very excited to hear and see where you guys will take this, because I can see that you guys think long term, because you've come from a long-term over time change. You know what I mean? Like, it's taken you many years to get to where you have, where you are now. But now it's kind of like, it doesn't mean that it's scary to think about, well, what does 5-10 years look like? Because that's fine. You've been through that journey of hard work, and to now apply that to something that you can be passionate about and put your love, sweat, and tears into. It's going to be so much worthwhile to see where it is in 5-10 years. So I'm excited to be able to be part of that journey.
Well, thank you. And what's funny is, a great thing about us is I am always in hyperdrive, always like go, 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 go. And she is great at like pumping the brakes. Like, Anthony, that's great, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. And it's good. You need to have those both levels.
I've come to her sometimes, we got to do this. And she's like, what are you talking about? We have like 40 other things going on. Why are you going to add this to it? And do I get my feelings hurt sometimes? Yeah. But it's part of, you have to have that person to pump the brakes.
You really do. Now that's really exciting. And the next thing I wanted to touch on, it kind of feeds into everything that we've kind of already been talking about, and a lot of it comes back to your hobbies and outlets and passions that you guys like to do. And obviously, you're very passionate about Run for Grace and building that out. But then a lot of that comes from the running elements, right? So I would love to talk about, both of you, the different hobbies and outlets, and whether it is, I know for you, Anthony, you've got your YouTube and you've been building that out, and you've got a lot of your running journey there. And even for you, Jen, you've got a lot of stories on the running side as well. But let's touch on that at a whole. But then if there's anything else you guys want to add to that too.
So running for me, started only, it like 2012. Well, not really 20, probably
2017, 2018, maybe.
Yeah.
2015 was like attempting.
Well, when I met you, she would go on the treadmill, she wouldn't even be able to run a minute, okay. Chris. And I'd be like, why can't you? But
that was like at a 3.0 on a treadmill, which is nothing. We all know that is like a quick walk.
Yeah.
I was not having it. But yeah, it definitely grew over time, and the love for it has grown as well. And now, after having the gastric sleeve, I still have limitations, but things are getting so much better and so much easier. And it makes me appreciate it even more. There's hiccups. I have some screws in my feet from a surgery to get my bunion out.
Yep.
Those have to come out in the next couple months. So I know it's going to be a little bit of a setback again, but it's temporary.
Yep.
So just roll with it and then get back in the game. I can't start training again till the middle of next year to be back in for 2023 LA Marathon. So
yeah, but it's good that you chunk it down like that, because it's like building expectations. When we build so much expectations, we can get obviously disappointed very quickly. But knowing that these things are coming and being able to digest it, build around it, play that mentality back, and then work. Okay, well, that's fine. Well, this is what I can aim for. This is the next goal. This is it kind of helps bring that reward system back into play, because this is the reality of it now. Fortunately, I haven't been injured for a long time, but when I first started running and you get injured and you don't plan for it, and you think you're never going to get injured, right? And then you get it, and then you get better, and then you get another one, and then you get another one. And it can be so frustrating, but then you got to think about it and bring that perspective back. It's like, well, was I doing anything to prevent it, or what can I be doing to ensure next time that I'm not, and how you become a better person from that process. So it sounds like, you're about to go on another journey itself, but you sound very happy and ready to do it. That's great.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, here's a couple of fun tidbits of, she's not going to tell you the whole story, Chris, because she's very, what is it?
Modest.
She doesn't like, she's, what is it? What?
Humble, modest.
She's very humble, yeah. There before her surgery, she was running 6 miles a day for about 3 or 4 months. 6 miles a day, and nothing was coming off.
That's fair effort.
It was crazy. And I was like, and she gained a lot of weight because her thyroid died on her. She had no thyroid, it kept dying on her. So she's running like crazy and not losing a pound. But yet me, I go running a mile and I'm like, hey, darling, I lost a pound today. And she would want to kill me. So after a few months of watching her suffer like this, we finally said, you know what? Because she didn't want to do the surgery. She wanted to do it the natural way. But if your body's not agreeing with you, it's okay to get the surgery. And now look how happy she is. She's even mentioned a few months ago that she might want to do the Boston Marathon one day, Chris.
Ooh, that's exciting. But we're our weakness is, we set our boundaries. And if you're not willing to push those boundaries, then nothing's, it comes back to the whole premise of why we're talking about, willing to take action and to go on that journey and to make that change, whether it is a big lifestyle change or to run the Boston Marathon, right? Like that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. And she never even had, like, I don't think you experienced the runner's high just once or twice your whole life?
Maybe twice, yeah.
I've had it numerous times.
Yeah. It's a
She's
good
like,
feeling.
what the heck is this runner's high thing? I go, I have it like all the time. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I feel really good. Since the surgery, I started spin classes and rowing classes. And so after that, I feel amazing. And he's like, Oh my gosh, like
You should see the text messages I get at work. Like, you could have told her she just won the lottery.
Yeah, and that's the feeling, right? That's
Yeah.
the excitement, and it's love to hear that that's coming from a hobby or an outlet and what seems to be a passion. Because if we don't have those things in our lives, that's when I think we can start to realize, well, that's when you do get into those dark places, into those holes, and into those ruts, because you're not being able to work through. I mean, I love the running more so, yeah, for the mental element as well, but not just for all the other challenges and things that it brings. But there's days where I'd rather just run, not for the training, but just because I just need to clear my head, right? And to
Oh,
be able
yeah.
to have that outlet is so important. And for you, Anthony, I know that running was a big part of your journey of getting back on track and into life and whatnot. And now it's even a bigger part, because obviously with the charity and you have your YouTube. So let's hear about that.
Yeah, well, running started for me when I wanted to join the police department after I got my self-esteem all up, and I started, getting all bulked up at the gym and feeling good about myself, because I had Miss Cheerleader here telling me, you can do it, you can do it. I never had that before. Never had someone telling me you can do it. I never even
Makes a
thought.
difference.
And so, yeah. And so when I brought up to her, I said, you know what, I think I want to apply for the police department. I was like 37, 38 at the time. And I go, I think I have a good background, and I think I could help a lot of people in that area. And I pushed hard for it, Chris. Oh my gosh. I mean, and she was right on board with me. I applied for so many departments, and then I got a thanks but no thanks letter from the LAPD after being this close to getting in there.
Jeepers.
Oh, I was so after 9 months of being in the process, running my butt off like crazy, trying to keep up with these young kids that's going to be I'm going to be in the academy with.
Yeah.
And when I got that letter, I was so devastated.
Yeah.
I thought this was my mission, my path. And a friend of mine says, why don't you do a marathon? And I was like, get the hell out, a marathon. I was like, that's for like elite people. Like, what are you talking about? And he goes, no, you could do a marathon. You're putting the miles, go for it. And I looked into it and I go, okay. So that's led to my first marathon in 2017, the LA Marathon.
Amazing.
And now I'm able to help people in a different way and not be scared of going to work every day.
That's it.
But yeah, I do. I love running. It's like my joy. I can imagine not ever doing it. The people we've met through running is so amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And just through the YouTube, I love. And then back in May of 2020, I said, you know what? I would like to start a YouTube channel, because I think I think my story could help people. And she's like, I'm on board. She's always on board. I mean, of course, she might want to get some more details. She wants to get details first, not just,
I'm a planner.
Yeah. So I said, I want to do this YouTube thing. It's going to take some time, but I have to be consistent. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with me showing the family? Are you okay with me? Because I don't like to be hiding. I like to show my life. Yeah. And she's on board. And it's not growing as fast as I would have liked it, of course, but I'm having so much fun doing it. And I don't see myself ever stopping doing it. So,
and it's the journey once again, right? And it's that I do love what you create, and you bring a whole lot of different element. And I think that's the beauty of, there's plenty of people out running and documenting and sharing, but we all have something fresh and different to bring, whether it is the life experience, whether it's just the way we're training, or just, where we're trying to get to. And I do encourage anyone for that matter, you can go check out the YouTube channel. But at the same time, if you are running as well, it makes even more sense, because it's more a running related channel. But there's lots of quirks and different things in there, which I think is relevant to anyone's life. And, it's a lot of fun. And Anthony you do bring a lot of fun and comedy to it. Just even with you in the back behind the scenes as well, Jen, it's great.
Well, she's on our, we also have a Run for Grace YouTube channel. Where we interview people like you're doing for us. We interview people who are using their passion for health, fitness, and running to make a positive impact. And just through that show alone, because we started this during the pandemic, because we couldn't do any marathons or anything.
Yeah, of course.
So like, well, let's just share the people's stories. Yeah. And so we've met so many people through that. Oh my gosh.
Like, really, people that are really doing good things. And it's, we never would have dreamed to be able to sit and chat with these people about what's going on. And we're so thankful.
And she's the star of that channel for sure. Oh my gosh, she's a star of it. She's we document her BSG journey on there also, and it's really helped a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think, once again, sharing, it helps give people perspective. And for anyone that's listening, you can go check all this is in the show notes. You can go find Anthony's channel. You can go find the Run for Grace channel and all those good things and places as well. So, I mean, we've touched on a lot of things, and I want to get to one of my favorite parts, which is the rapid fire questions. Just a chance for the audience to get to know you guys about random stuff. And so we'll try and keep it short and sharp. Just because otherwise we'll end up spending hours of conversation.
We gotta get it's almost dinner time over here, Chris.
So well, the first one then, and answer one each, is favorite book that you have read.
Becoming Obama, Michelle Obama.
Oh, yeah, I know the one.
Love it.
Mine is a little different. Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins.
Such a good book.
Sure, I agree.
Love it. Okay. Only 3 meals you can have for the rest of your life, and this might be combined or it might be individual. It's up to you guys. What are they?
Well, meals. I'm a vegan now,
Yeah.
but if I was not vegan, hamburgers, enchiladas, fried chicken.
Okay.
I say pizza, ice cream, and gum. I miss gum.
Gum.
I miss chewing gum. I can't do that after
Is
this.
that a meal?
For me, it is. 2 hours.
There's no right or wrong for this. It's
I
all
learned something new today.
This one's a deep one, way away from the 3 meals, but biggest lesson to date.
For me, it's how do I say it? Learning about someone from the very beginning. Like if someone shows you who they are the first time, trust and believe it.
Yeah.
They're a great person, then they're going to continue to be a great person. If they show that red flag, it's going to carry.
Yeah. It's good advice.
Mine is your past is not your prison, it is your power, actually.
Yeah.
And I dig deep into my past many times during many hard miles. So that's a great way of, don't you look at it as something to hold you back. It gives something that could push you further.
Yeah, no, that's really good as well. Kind of on the same topic in terms of, lessons and inspiring and whatnot, 3 sources of inspiration that you guys would go to.
My kids, my husband, and our nonprofit, what we want to do for other people.
Nice. Yeah, so kids, my wife, and I'd say it could be worse all the time. It could be worse.
Yeah.
You've been through worse. I tell myself, you've been through worse.
Yeah. No, that's true as well, because coming back to your previous point, being able to harness of where you've come from to help you see forward and push through. I think it's something that a lot of people neglect or don't realize how strong they are. One product each that you can't live without.
Floss, dental floss. Oral hygiene is number 1. Has been my entire life.
Okay.
My phone.
Your phone, yeah.
It's got everything I need on my social media and my videos for my YouTube.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. And then the last one for each of you, what would you tell your teenage self?
When I think about yours, I'll tell mine.
Yes.
You're going to get through this.
That was mine.
That's okay. There's no right or wrong.
Exactly.
Your teenage self.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing. And it's, when I reflect back to being a teenager myself, it's like, I mean, you tell yourself that you're going to push through it, right? But, when you get through it, and then it's like when you do a marathon as well, right? You can't fathom doing it. But once you've done it, you're like, oh, I could do it again, right? And you realize you just got to keep pushing forward. It's not about necessarily being the fastest or being the best. It's about getting it done, right? And I think, having that mentality, as a teenager and understanding it can give you some good boosts that you need.
And it's the same thing with the kids. Oh my God, we watch, because we have 3 kids and they're all teenagers, and we watch like our little one, Leilani. She's the youngest, but the wisest of the 3 over the other 2 boys. She had to stand in line at a Hot Topic to pay one time, and she almost said, no, I can't do it. Nope, you're going to stand in line and do it. It was horrendous for her. Horrendous. But she got through it. and now she knows how to pay for her own stuff.
That's it.
Oh.
That's it.
For that, she was so terrified.
Yeah, for us, so simple, for her, so terrifying. And
Yeah.
then when it's done, it's like, oh, I can do it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's crazy. I've been reflecting on it so much, of the little things that we used to worry so much about. Now it's like the everyday things, right? And it's hindsight, and it's growth and experience, and just growing up, right? I mean, it's all part of the maturing process. But
Yeah.
it's funny to think of, what our problems were when we were young compared to the problems we have as adults, right? It just blows my mind. Well, Jen and Anthony, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you both here and chit-chatting and talking about so much. Like, it's been quite a deep chat, and I know there's probably so much more we could dive into, and I encourage anyone listening to, if they do have questions, to reach out to both Jen and Anthony. Two things before we go, though, is first thing, if you could leave the audience with one thing that they walk away from this episode, what would it be?
The hard stuff is just hard for a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
It'll pass.
That's
But
good.
it also makes you stronger, right, darling?
Absolutely.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can get through it. It's tough, but you can do it.
That's it. I love it. And where's the best place to follow along? Whether it's, it's all going to be in the show notes and whatnot. But for people that want to follow along, you guys, where's the best place to find you?
The Instagram.
Yeah, we love Instagram at Run for Grace. It's our favorite platform, other than YouTube.
Awesome. Too easy.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it so much, guys. It's been absolute pleasure to having you here to chat and just have some banter. And I'm looking forward to following along the journey. I know that, it's early days for what you're both doing for Run for Grace, and even on your YouTube as well, Anthony. It's just early days, and it's some exciting things ahead. So really do appreciate you guys spending the time, and you guys have a wonderful day.
You too.
You too.
Thank you,
Thank you
Chris.
so much.
So welcome.
Bye.
All right. Cheers. What an episode. And I want to say a big thank you once again to Jen and Anthony for jumping on. It's always encouraging hearing people's stories and their journeys and how far they've come and where they're going, and how they're still working through the different things in life. And I think that's the big key takeaway. And they did sum it up really, really well at the end there, how it's never too late to change. It's never too late to start. It's never too late to get things back on track. And I want to really harp on this to kind of wrap up the episode, that if you need to conversate with someone, if you need to have a conversation with someone, if you need to just lean on someone, or maybe there's been something in this episode which has potentially opened your eyes, or maybe given you that little bit of insight, or that little push that maybe you are ready to make a change and you want to, well, please do go reach out to Jen and Anthony. You can reach out to them over at Run for Grace. Of course, all the details are in the show notes. And of course, if you just want to chat and have some banter, always happy to listen, always happy to have a conversation with you guys as well. And we're on Twitter at Further Your Life. We're on Instagram at Further Your Lifestyle. And you can hit us up at hello@furtheryourlifestyle.com via email as well. So I really do appreciate you being here. Really appreciate you sticking around, having a listen, and it means the world to me. And of course, it also means the world to Jen and Anthony as well. So really do hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure to be able to bridge this conversation between, I guess, the three of us now. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Cheers. Now, if you didn't know, we do have the podcast merch, and this is with a key focus of enamel pins. Now, if you haven't checked these out, make sure you do, because the intent of these are really just to be a small token and a reminder for you to charge on, to push on, and to further your lifestyle. Whether it is a gift for someone else to encourage them, or maybe to inspire them, or maybe it's a way to motivate yourself, or you can simply just make a purchase to simply support the podcast, which would be greatly appreciated. We do also have some sweaters and some long tees, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description and in the show notes. Really do appreciate it. Cheers.